Hey guys, thank you for tuning into my channel and welcome back. So before we get into the episode today, I just want to say, ever since I got pregnant, I feel like I picked up pregnancy brain and it has yet to leave me. I guess in due time. So during my last video, I said I was going to be posting videos every, I think I said Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but I actually meant every Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So forgive me. Now that that's out the way, today we're going to be talking about the first human to ever step foot on the North Pole. Well, he's considered the first human to ever step foot on the North Pole, and his name was Matthew A Henson. So let's get into it. So, Matthew A. Henson was born on August 8th, 1866 to sharecropper parents in Charleston County, Maryland. So, while living in Maryland, his parents experienced relentless harassment from the terrorist organization known as the Ku Klux Klan. So wait, before I go any farther for that, I kind of I have a question for you all, and I don't want you to cheat and look it up. I kind of just want you to think about it in your head, and then at the end, when I reveal the answer, then you can say, I guess, to yourself or in the comments if you got the answer right. So the question that I'm going to ask you all is, in today's time, what state has the most KKK, Ku Klux Klan members in today's time in the United States of America? So I'm going to ask you that question. Just think of a state or hold it in your head, and then I'm going to answer it at the end of the video. So, like I said, Matthew was born in Charleston County, Maryland. They experienced relentless harassment from the terrorist organization. And so, to try to escape the harassment and the terrorism, they moved to Georgetown. Now, Georgetown at that time was an independent town. It wasn't a part of any state or anything like that. But in 1871, it later becomes a part of Washington, D.C. So they moved to Georgetown, but when Matthew turned 7 years old, sadly, tragically, his mother ended up passing away. His father ended up getting remarried and having a couple of more children, and then sadly again, his father ended up passing away. So Matthew was sent to Washington, D.C. to stay with his uncle, and during that time, his uncle paid for him to be in private school for a couple of years. But sadly, again, his uncle ended up passing away. And to me, I can't imagine being so young and dealing with so much loss. And it's not always how you start, but it's how you finish. Because God obviously had a hand on his life. So moving forward, Matthew said that he had went to a ceremony, and this ceremony forever stayed with him. He was inspired by it. So the ceremony was to honor Abraham Lincoln. And of course, we know President Abraham Lincoln as the president during the Civil War time. He also was the president that freed the enslaved people in the United States of America, and he made, the proclamation. And in that ceremony, Frederick Douglass was there, and he said Douglas' speech was just basically phenomenal. And in the speech, Douglas, advocated for people of color, people more specifically of African descent, to aggressively go after education and to also go after racial injustice. And he said it just stayed with him forever. Now, that was when he was 10 years old. So fast forward a little bit, when he was the age 12, he decided to travel to Baltimore, Maryland, a busy port at that time, by himself. So he didn't have his mom, he didn't have his dad, he didn't have his uncle. So he didn't really have a, well, he didn't have a parental figure. So when he was the age of 12, he decided to travel to Baltimore by himself. Wow, that's crazy. Like, I can't imagine that. Navigating that at 12 years old. So he went to Baltimore. He ended up finding a job as a cabin boy. And when he became a cabin boy, he was able to see the world. He was able to see Africa, Japan, uh, the Russian, the Russian Arctic Sea, to name a few. But he was basically able to travel the world, and it opened his eyes. The captain who he was traveling with was named Captain Charles, and he took Matthew under his wing, and he also taught him how to read and write. Many years later, in 1877, Matthew ended up crossing paths with a U.S. Navy commander named Robert E. Peary. So Robert had ended up recruiting Matthew for a voyage that he had, but he was so impressed by Matthew that he decided to recruit him as an equal. He decided to recruit him as a colleague, and he also named him his first man in all his expeditions. So after 20 years of expeditions with Matthew and Robert, Matthew learned a lot. He learned how to make igloos from snow. He was remembered as the only non-insolent to be very good at dog sledding, and he was remembered as um, being like the only non-insolent who was from African origin to have mastered the insolent language. And he also became a skilled craftsman amongst other things. So in 1808 to 1809, Robert tried his eighth attempt to try to get to the North Pole. But this time it was successful for him and, well, at least his crew, we'll say. So during this eighth attempt, it was said that Robert became very ill and sick. His toes became even frozen possibly. It's like different accounts, rumors. But if you look up the research, that's what it says. Like, possibly he was ill. He became ill. He had frozen toes. He walked so much he couldn't walk anymore, so he had to ride on a dog sleigh. And when that happened, he sent Matthew ahead with a couple of crew members. Now remember, Matthew is considered the first man of that crew. So just remember that. So when Robert did that, Matthew and the rest of the crew members ended up being successful with reaching the North Pole. And Matthew ended up gaining or becoming, let's say, famous from that expedition, from someone finally stepping foot on the North Pole. So the National Geographic Society and the Naval Affairs Subcommittee of the U.S. House of Representatives both credited Matthew and his team as indeed being the first people to reach the North Pole. Later in life, he published books, including his memoir, A Negro Explorer at the North Pole. He also received praise and or rewards from various presidents, including Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and also Theodore Roosevelt. He also became the first African American to be admitted as a member of the Explorers Club, the prestigious Explorers Club, in 1948. In 1944, Congress awarded him and 5 other crew members with a silver medal named the Perry Polar Expedition Medal. And in March 9th of 1955, at the age of 88, Matthew passed away in the Bronx, leaving behind his wife, Lucy Ross Henson. But when she passed in 1968, she was laid to rest beside him. So, of course, all these different committees, all these government agencies, all these researchers, they all believe, that he was the first, him and his crew. In 1984, Wally Henson, a British explorer, now, but I do believe he is the first man to walk on the North Pole, and he is widely considered the first man to have stepped on the North Pole. So, to get back to the question I asked earlier about how many members in today's time, um, what state has the most members in today's time of this terrorist organization, the Ku Klux Klan, aka the KKK? So, that state is Pennsylvania, believe it or not. Also, Pennsylvania is ranked number 5 as the state with the most hate groups in general. I believe the first state is Texas. And I just say that again because people always think like, oh, it's only racism down south, oh, it's only prejudice down south. No, it is. It's up north too. It is here and active and thriving. You heard? Maybe not as strong as they used to do, but it's here. But again, with Matthew A Henson, he's such a legend. Like, he experienced so much loss, but he didn't let that pain and that loss get in the way of his purpose that God had for him. And he became the legend that we know him as today. I just want to say thank you guys again for tuning into my channel. And be safe, stay safe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.